Welcome. Welcome to the first episode of, what am I going to call this channel? Let's say Canadian Guy Talks. I just want to address what's been going on in my country, in Canada, for the past few weeks, up to the past couple years. I want to address what's happening in Ottawa, the trucking convoy, and our Prime Minister. So let's start with the convoy. I was a little bit late to the game. I didn't know what was going on, but I quickly found out or learned, because this is something that interests me. Anything to do with freedom and liberty, I'm all about it. So one of my friends pointed me in the direction of the GoFundMe, and it was very interesting to learn that they'd raised almost $500,000 in the matter of a day or two. So I'm like, wow, that's a good chunk of money. What's the purpose behind this? So I read the statement and the memorandum that Tamara Litch and the other people organizing the event put out, and I felt a sense of pride. Proud to be a Canadian again. That's the way I would describe it. Over the past 2 years, we've been locked down in our homes. We've been having to depend on news media sources, the major ones, CBC, CTV, for any information, because any and all information was blocked and locked down in regards to the cough. So we had to depend on those sources, which we all know now are fake news, in order to get any ounce of information. So to figure out what was going on, and it did take us a couple of years, I'm not gonna lie. Some of the best out there that were doing, let's say, the Lord's work, like Joe Rogan is one good example. Rebel News, another good example. A lot of people are, think that Alex Jones is polarizing, but he was probably the first one. Alex Jones and InfoWars to come out and give us some good information. Now, I've been ostracized and made into a pariah, called a conspiracy theorist over the past couple of years, spreading the information that I've come by and stuff that I've learned about not only the pandemic, but also this experimental jab. And it doesn't feel good, I'm not gonna lie. A lot of people say that they don't really care about being a social outcast, whatever. I kind of did. It hurt, but I had strong convictions and I stuck to them. And now that people are starting to slowly wake up, they're starting to see that I wasn't a conspiracy theorist. I was just someone who was able to think. So back to the trucker convoy. I think it's awesome. That's it. I don't really have many words about it. I can't fathom the amount of effort and the amount of planning that it takes to bring all the truckers together across the nation, and even some outside the nation. I know there's a lot of our U.S. brothers and sisters that are coming across the border or staying at the border if they can't cross it to support us. And any little bit of either money, terms of donations that we could spare, we did. And it makes me proud to be a Canadian, because I wasn't proud to be a Canadian it's been a long time. Ever since Liberal government took control or got into power, it's been a steady decline. Our housing prices have gone up. Our gas has gone up. Cost of living's gone up. Our wages have not gone up to support that. It hasn't been in line with that. It hasn't been in line with inflation. And for millennials or anyone who's born in the 90s, I'd say, even in the late 80s, it's been hard to get a career that makes enough money to purchase a property, purchase a home, still have enough left over at the end of the month to take care of any emergencies after paying bills and everything like that. It's difficult. I know a lot of people that are in and around my age that rent because they can't buy a home. They don't have that kind of, not only income, but the lack of investing knowledge. Just overall, it's not enough. It's not enough. I think this one I'll light it later. It's not enough. We expect more. I think Canadians deserve better than they're experiencing right now. I want to go back to, I believe it was the 2015 election when Trudeau won and took power and the Liberal government took power. And I was kind of mulling over it the other day, just trying to think, why and how did this happen? Why and how did this happen? Why were people fed up with the Conservative government? I really can't think of anything in terms of, as far as I'm concerned anyway, and this was back when I was in high school or getting out of high school. I know a lot of my friends and people that I went to school with were excited to vote for Justin Trudeau because of his main promise. His main promise was that he was going to legalize marijuana usage in cities. He was going to legalize marijuana usage in cities. I grew up with a lot of potheads. I myself never touched it. There's a good reason for that. And I know I kind of look like a hypocrite smoking tobacco here, but it's not acceptable in my household, and it never will be. And why would I want to disappoint my parents? Why would I? It makes no sense. And that gets me to another point too. And this is how I kind of want to mold this channel moving forward. It's a good thing to be virtuous, and it's a good thing to respect your parents. Because without your parents, first of all, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have any support. If you were thrown out of the house at the age of 14, then you would probably just be homeless. Especially kids nowadays that don't have any motivation, don't have any real drive, from what I've seen anyway. Not saying everyone, but the majority will choose to play video games over cleaning their room, which is normal and natural, but there comes a point when you pursue pleasure to the extent where you just ignore all pain and all responsibility. And I know I'm starting to sound like Jordan Peterson, but he's right. I've read his books multiple times, and he's correct. You don't want to descend into chaos, because then life becomes meaningless. You want that discipline. Discipline's great. That's why martial arts are awesome, right? Their whole premise is around discipline. I went off on a tangent, but let's just come back here to the original thought. So Justin Trudeau, let's do a timeline here. 2015, he was elected as Prime Minister of Canada. I'm not going to say solely on the premise that he was going to legalize marijuana, but there are a lot of pot smokers in Canada, and they would have loved to see that happen. Now, it took a while. It wasn't legalized right away, and once it was, they couldn't turn a profit. I was hearing it all over the news. That's back when I still listened to the news. Now it's just overrun by it's state funded, especially CBC. Couldn't turn a profit. If you look at the statistics, we couldn't turn a profit on marijuana. It's not worth it. And there was another statistic that I found that mentioned people are still buying it illegally. Why? Because it's a lot cheaper. People don't want to go online to buy it, and they're spending an extra, however much it is per gram of marijuana. And they when they could still buy it for a cheap price, and if they get caught with it, there's really no repercussions. So why would you buy it legally when it's cheaper to buy it illegally and you have no repercussions for holding it? There's no criminal charge, and there's no real way to find out. Nobody's going after these people, not anymore. We have bigger issues in this country, and they kind of revolve around theft. We have an issue with gun crime, but that's illegal guns coming in. They don't want to crack down on this stuff. What they want to do is they want to crack down on legal gun owners, but they're never going to crack down on the means by which illegal firearms come from the States into Canada, and they're smuggled every day. And they don't care. They don't care. They just want to punish legal firearms owners that have to go through training and have to go through a lengthy process and jump through a lot of hoops to get a firearm. And then most good firearms, I'm going to say, are banned in Canada. Okay? So he gets into office. What happens? Things start declining rather rapidly. Okay? You start seeing this rhetoric that people that don't do this or don't support the LGBT movement, and don't come out to Pride, they're racist, they're misogynist, they're this, they're that, whatever. He starts making allies with our enemies, China, Russia. Okay? Not that Russia is necessarily an enemy, but it allows for bigger complications and bigger problems down the line. Okay? Being a bootlicker. Where was I going with this? So now they push the green agenda. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about. The green agenda, where we're not allowed to drive cars anymore. We're not allowed to use gasoline. We have to either walk or use the bus. And then there's the meat. Can't eat meat anymore. Gotta eat bugs. Blah blah blah. Blah, all this. I don't think hardworking Canadians deserve that. Okay? I think if you get up in the morning and you go to work and you bust your ass and you have to pay taxes on taxes on taxes, I don't think you should be virtue signaling. I think you should be the one virtue signaling. I think those people, those hardworking Canadians, should be telling ones that just survive on welfare and our tax dollars and programs like that to get off their ass and fucking go to work and get a job, and do something with their lives instead of sitting on their fucking ass all day and doing absolutely nothing and being a leech and a parasite on society. I think the hardworking people should be the ones virtue signaling instead of the other way around. And let's go back to the trucker convoy, okay? Let's go back to that for a second. There's a huge smear campaign by mainstream media CTV, CBC, City News, they're all calling the truckers racist, misogynistic, white supremacists. What does that have to do with anything? Nobody said a blip about race. Nobody said a blip about your sexual orientation. Nobody said anything like that, as far as I'm concerned. As far as I remember, and I've been checking it out. Some people have been sending me videos of some of the organizers, and they're saying some stuff that they could perceive as unsavory, but they're really not saying anything bad at all. They're not calling anyone out. They're not promoting aggression or violence or anything like that. They have their opinion, sure, but who doesn't? Everyone has an opinion. Gotta get this beard trimmed. Everyone has their opinion, and that's just it. And that's what makes us human, and that's what makes us a society, because why would we want to be an echo chamber? You have an idea, do you want to hear that same idea over and over and over again? And some people like it. To be honest, I think the left does. They love it. If you go on Twitter or Reddit, it's a gigantic echo chamber. Everyone's just mimicking each other, saying the exact same thing. They love it. They love to hear their own thoughts repeated. And that's fine. You guys can have those sites. There are alternative sites that are less echo chamber and more introduction of new ideas, which I can appreciate. So, I was present at the Vaughan Mills rally. I think it was a fantastic experience, and people were, and in the first time in 2 years, honestly, I could see people's smiles. People were happy. They were supportive, and I was like, this is what we're missing. People used to be happy. People used to laugh and smile. Now it's a bunch of miserables. I work in retail. Everyone's miserable. Trying to get out. Trying to get out of that situation. Went to school for 7 years so I could, but the problem is, with a more serious position, like healthcare, that's what my schooling was in. Trying to get into this healthcare field now, you have to comply with a bunch of things that I'm just not willing to comply with right now. Right? I'd rather see mandates lifted. I'd rather see free choice. I'd rather see people doing what they think is best for them. I don't want to be forced to do something I don't want to do. I don't think anybody should be forced to do something that they don't want to do. Or coerced. Forced or coerced. But the problem is, even if mandates lift, my concerns are that people are so hypnotized and weaponized that they would still try to enforce these mandates or these restrictions, even if mandates were lifted, which is crazy. And there are people that admit that they would. Why? How do people get like this? How do people get like this? I blame mostly the media. People are mutable to a certain extent, and what I mean by that is they're malleable. If they hear something, even if they don't truly believe it at first, once they're worn down enough, and they see it every day. If you take the average Canadian that watches CBC every day, they're going to be worn down eventually. They're going to give into these ideas, give into the propaganda, and eventually they're going to comply. They're going to believe that. And here's the other thing too with Canadians. They want to keep that reputation that we're the nicest people in the world and we're the most compliant people in the world. And we would never do anything to hurt a fly. So when someone comes out on CBC and says, if you don't wear a mask, you're going to kill someone's grandmother. You're going to, you're going to get someone sick and they're going to end up in the ICU, or if you don't get vaccinated, you're going to kill somebody because you're going to spread the virus to them. We know that the vaccines never stopped the spread of the virus, and we knew that from the start. But the problem was that they said it wouldn't, and people believed that it was like a flu shot, where if you get it, you wouldn't get it and or spread it. Okay, and we knew that, but they refused. They said that's a lie, right? But now we know that as fact, and we were gaslit. You know, they were gaslit into believing that it wouldn't, but now we know that it does, and now we're being gaslit to believe that they never said that, even though there's saved clips of Fauci and Biden both saying it, which is absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so that's my rant. I want to go back to Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister, our leader. I truly think Canadians deserve better. I think this guy should resign as soon as possible. The truckers have enough supply, or they're bankrolled for 2 to 4 years, they said. They have enough money to supply themselves for 2 to 4 years, so they're not going anywhere. Our supply lines are gonna dry up completely. I can see that happening. I can see there being somewhat of an emergency for supplies, especially for essentials, food, water, toilet paper. And I don't think he cares. To me, he seems like a narcissist that does not give a hoot about Canadians. I think he only cares about the Canadians who share his views, which are dwindling in number by the day. And he will do anything to protect his views, even at the cost of Canadian lives, which is the opposite of what a prime minister should be, or should behave, the way they should behave. And everyone is flabbergasted, absolutely bewildered at his insistence on calling these peaceful protesters racist, misogynist, anything else he can pull out, when he's the one who wore blackface. Ezra Levant from Rebel News found out that he had a kit. He had a blackface kit. Like, this wasn't a 1 or 2 time ordeal. He had a kit, and that was like his party trick. You know, he would pull out this blackface kit, and that's what he did. He did blackface, and it was funny for them. Like, it seems very racist, and it is, to paint your face black, to imitate someone, from African descent, or someone who with a darker skin color. But to him, it was a learning opportunity for Canadians. And then they want to put the shoe on the other foot and say that we're the racist, we're the misogynist, even though we're fighting for freedom for everyone. And if you go to these rallies, there's people of every race and creed showing up and supporting Canadians. So, what does he do? He runs away. I'm sick. I prophesied it. I called it. I said, listen, his son tested positive, whatever. First, they didn't even tell us it was his son. They said someone he was in close contact with. So that could have been a colleague, but then that was no reason for him to isolate. Then the next day they said, oh, it was his son. He needs to isolate for 5 days. And I said, listen, at the end of the 5 days, on the last day, he's going to test positive, and then he's going to have to isolate for 2 weeks, even though health guidelines only say he needs to isolate for another 5 days. So we're gonna see what happens with that, but he's probably just hiding somewhere in Canada. A lot of people probably know where. And yeah, he's just gonna hide it out. He's just gonna hide. He's gonna wait. He's gonna wait for the truckers to disperse. And you know what? They're not gonna disperse. Nor should they. I think we should continue to fight and stand our ground and protest peacefully. Protest peacefully and occupy Ottawa until they do the right thing, which is lift all mandates and end this madness. Treat it like it is. It's treat it like a flu. That's, those are the symptoms. It's very similar to a flu. And yeah, that's my rant. I think we deserve better as a country, as Canadians. I don't think we deserve to be called these things, racist, misogynist. I don't think that's productive. I think that he should face this head on like a true prime minister and not a coward, run and hide under his bed. And that's it. If you agree with me, drop a like. I'm going to hopefully post more videos like this if I get enough support, and then I don't get taken off of YouTube. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you have any subjects you want me to touch on, anything in a future video, I'd appreciate it. Sorry for the long-winded rant, but this is the style, like just chilling in my green room here. I can show you around. Got some plants going. Green room, like to grow stuff in the summertime. But yeah, this is how I like to do things. Even though it's a little bit longer, I hope you enjoy. Think about it like a podcast. Maybe I'll do it in podcast format in the future. You guys stay strong, stay safe, and rock on.